So before we can look into this idea of what it means to sketch angles on the Cartesian plane that are in radians, let's make sure that you're comfortable with what it means when we say that a circle has a circumference of 2 pi. And that's really going to help us to understand when we sketch radians exactly what quadrant that they're going to go into. Now, recall from what we talked about before that this idea we're drawing an angle in standard position, we're always going to start here at the positive x-axis. So we're going to call this 0 in terms of radians, just like we called it 0 in terms of degrees. And then we're going to move around, because we're dealing with radians, in this general direction. Now remember what we said before, or what was kind of clear in that video, that one complete circle has a circumference of 2 pi. That means if I were to take a piece of string and trace it around the outer part of this circumference over here, that it would have a measure of 2 pi. So we're starting at 0 and we're ending at 2 pi. Now let's get some other values in here as well. If we're starting here at 0 and ending at 2 pi, let's take a look then at where this value is in terms of radians. Well, if this is 2 complete pi's, I hope you can see that this bit here would then be half of those 2 complete pi's, and half of 2 pi is 1 pi. Okay, so we're starting over here at 0. So 0 for the positive x-axis, and then we have pi for the negative x-axis, and then we have 2 pi, which is one complete circle. Well, let's see what's happening over here at our positive y-axis. Well, if this is 0 radians, and if this is pi radians, what that means, this is halfway between 0 and pi, and halfway between 0 and 1 pi is half a pi. So we're going to call the positive y-axis here to be pi over 2. Okay, so we have 0 radians, we have half a radian, we have 1 pi radians, and then we're ending up at 2 pi radians. And let's talk about now what our negative y-axis would be. Well, if this is 1 pi, and if this is 2 pi's, halfway between 1 full pi and 2 full pi's are 1.5 pi's, or we can also call that 3 pi over 2 in terms of an improper fraction. So this is what we have in terms of radians. We're starting at 0. Pi over 2 is equivalent to 90 in degrees. Pi is equivalent to 180 in degrees. 3 pi over 2 is equivalent to 270 in terms of degrees. And then 2 pi is equivalent to 360 in terms of degrees.